Welcome to the first episode of HawkScout, where I scout out the latest tech releases and tech rumors in the film industry. I'm your host Adonis, and in this episode we're going to be talking about the Panasonic GH5 and the newly announced Ursa Mini Pro from Blackmagic Design. Now, many of you have already known that the Panasonic GH4 is kind of the legend, the benchmark in the mirrorless game. And the successor is finally here, the GH5. So let's talk about why this is probably one of the best things for indie filmmakers. So the GH5 has a 5-axis sensor stabilization, which will give you super steady shots without having to rely on something like a stabilizer. Now the 4K on this sensor is no longer cropped. Instead of a 2.3 times crop, we're back down to a 2.0 crop, just how the 1080 was on the GH4. So if you use a speed booster, get ready for that Super 35 look. And also we have 4K at 60 frames a second and 422 10-bit 4K at 30 frames a second, which is fantastic as far as color. So if you're really into color grading your footage, or you have a project that you really need to heavily color grade, you don't have to worry about the gradients and things like that, especially in the sky and moving objects. This should actually appear significantly better than the GH4. And also in the summer, we have an update for an all intra mode for 1080 at 60 frames a second in 422 10-bit as well, so that's exciting. And alongside that release, we'll have a 4K mode at 30 frames a second at 400 megabits a second. And another addition to that, as well, as we'll have an anamorphic 6K video mode at 30 frames a second. So if you like shooting with anamorphic glass, that is coming as well. Now on paper, the autofocus system seems to be far superior. We went up from 49 to 225 contrast detection points. Now another massive welcome addition is the dual SD card slots. Now this is great for a couple of things. Redundancy, that's always great. This actually adds tons more storage. So two 256 gig SD cards, man. Now Panasonic did release a new professional audio unit as well for the GH5, which attaches directly to the hot shoe mount. So I cannot wait to test this out, because if you want really good audio, that is the way to go. Oh, cannot wait. Now the GH5 does have a starting price of $2,000, which is a little bit more than the GH4's initial asking price. But to be completely honest, with everything that we're getting and updates coming in the future, I think it's worth it. Now Blackmagic Design has been making a big name for itself, some good, some bad, but their newest product, the Ursa Mini Pro, has some really cool things. Now we still have the 4.6K from the Ursa Mini. That means 15 stops of dynamic range, which is unbelievable. Now in addition to that sensor, we now have ND up to 6 stops, and this is not electronic like the FS5. This is actual ND filter that will slot down, which is pretty awesome. Something like the FS7, which is still more expensive than the Ursa Mini Pro. Now we finally have controls on the back of the LCD. That's something that people had complaints about the original Ursa Mini in the first place. Now one of the big deals about this new camera is the interchangeable lens mounts. Now just like Red, you're able to manually change the lens mount to adapt additional types of lenses. Now this is brilliant. We have EF, PL, and B4 from the jump, and Nikon support later, and they showed that as well, which is very, very exciting for you Nikon users. Now I know I was really excited about the 2 SD card slots on the GH5, but this camera is in a completely different league since it records in Cinema DNG RAW, and that's 12-bit. So it has 2 CFast card readers and 2 SD card readers. Yes. Not to mention, on those SD cards can record Apple ProRes at 10-bit on those as well. So this camera is extremely flexible as far as what formats you can record in. Now at the time of filming, this camera sits at $6,000 on Blackmagic's website. It is a couple $100 more than the Sony FS5. Well, that's gonna do it for our first episode of HawkScout, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below which camera you're most interested in. Is it gonna be the Ursa Mini Pro or the Panasonic GH5? Or is it another camera that we didn't get to talk about yet? Also, if you guys have things you would love me to cover on HawkScout, let me know as well on Instagram and Twitter at I'm Adonis Xavier. And if you like tech reviews, anime reviews, comic reviews, follow me on YouTube at Absolutely Tech. All right, guys, till next time, stay scouting.